Hi, well, it's another rainy day in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, so I thought you folks might be interested in learning how to make some more recipes that you enjoy anyway or that you order out for on your own. So rather than ordering out from some crappy pizza place like Domino's or Round Table or something like that, I thought you would be interested in how to make your own deep dish pizza. Some of you might be familiar if you live in the San Francisco Bay Area, like I do, with places like Zachary's or Paxti's or Windy City Pizza. Um, so those are all, most of them do a deep dish in this kind of pan, a deep dish pizza, and it's almost like a lasagna and a pizza. It's each piece is a meal. So we're gonna try and do that here, and so let's get started. We're gonna start by adding 1 1/8 cup of water, just and make sure that it's lukewarm tap water, not hot, not cool, but lukewarm tap water. And the official recipe says 1 cup and 2 tablespoons, which is the equivalent of 1 1/8 cup. So I'm adding that. Then immediately I'm adding a packet, or if you like, a tablespoon of your favorite bulk yeast. Adding the yeast, and then we need some food for the yeast. In other words, we need some sugar. So what I use is, and this is not real exact, but I'm just adding a tablespoon of sugar. You can add a little less. I add, it's enough to kind of flavor the dough, and and that's also enough to to allow the yeast to have something to feed off of and to do its thing, which is to basically, make bubbles and make the dough rise. We're going to mix the dry ingredients. So we mix 4 cups of white flour. 4 cups. I should mention that this recipe is taken pretty closely off the King Arthur Chicago style pizza recipe that's online. So that's the King Arthur Chicago style pizza. There's some things in it that I cut out, and I'll kind of mention that if I do some shortcuts or whatever, that I'll mention those. But so we do 4 cups of these are 2-cup measuring cups, so that's 2 of those times 2 equals 4, and so 4 cups of the flour. Then we'll do of the salt. We're going to just use some regular salt. You can use sea salt if you like. We do 1 3/4 of the salt. Then we add, now I'm using polenta here, but I just like to use any coarse ground cornmeal. So whatever coarse ground cornmeal you use. Polenta is very coarse, but I put in 3 tablespoons of the coarse ground cornmeal, or polenta, as it is in this case. Then we mix those up thoroughly. Okay, so I'm giving you a close-up here of how it looks once you can start to add the rest of the wet ingredients. And so you can see that the thin bubbly film of yeast is a sign that it's activated, it's rising, or it's bubbling, and we're ready to add the rest of the wet ingredients. Okay, so we're ready to add the wet ingredients now to the yeast mixture. I've heated up 1/2 stick of butter, that is 4 tablespoons of butter, and I'm adding that. You don't want to add it when it's too hot, but add it when, of course, when it's still liquid. Then we want to add 4 tablespoons of olive oil. I think that was 4. And once we get that, we'll go ahead and add the rest of the flour mixture. And mix it up. So, most of the mixing that's happening is going to be kneading it. So you mix it up some in the bowl, and now you're kneading it. So you'll probably need to add a little bit of flour as you go along, just to sprinkle, just to keep the surfaces from sticking more than anything else. And of course, it goes without saying that before you do all this, before you touch the food, any food, whether it's dough or whatever, with your hands, especially in this particular climate of disease and everything, you want to wash your hands really well, so please do that. But this is how you're kneading. Kind of, if anyone's ever done clay, where you wedge clay, there's a certain similarity in wedging. You're kind of rolling it one way, you're turning it, maybe the ball about 90 degrees, rolling it the other way, and you just keep kneading it and adding flour as needed, so to speak. I guess pretty much what you're looking for as far as the end product is something that is uniformly, that's not sticky, that's uniformly kneaded, kind of stays in balls, relatively smooth surfaces on the ball of dough. And yeah. So once you get that to your liking, the all dough is ready, you know, maybe 5 minutes of kneading, something like that. You go ahead and take a plate, take some little drop of olive oil, and you know, either use a rag or your fingers, and spread it around thin layer on there. Put it on the plate, and then you're going to go ahead and just sit and let that sit for about 60 minutes. In the meantime, while we're waiting for the dough to rise, we can spend that time productively by basically cooking up the sausage. So I've got 2 packets here of Italian sausage, 16 ounce each. Now it seems like a lot of sausage, but this is your primary filling, and it is a filling in this pizza because this pizza is almost like a lasagna, as I was saying earlier. So you're basically taking 2 packets of this Italian sausage and putting it on the pan and cooking it up. Chop that up, and all the 32 ounces, 2 packets of Italian sausage. Okay, that looks like it's about ready. We're going to go ahead and set that aside and go ahead and mix the sauce ingredients. Okay, so now for the sauce. For the sauce, I'm adding 2 cans of your favorite diced, 2 cans, I should say, 28-ounce cans. 2 28-ounce cans of your favorite diced tomatoes. First off, I've taken those and I've put them in a colander because there usually is extra water in the diced tomatoes. I've let those drain there, and so I'm adding those 2 cans of diced tomatoes there. And now I'm going to go ahead and add an 8-ounce can, or I guess this is a 6-ounce can, so a 6-ounce can of tomato puree, tomato paste, I should say, tomato paste, and then I'm adding, this is to make it quick and easy so I don't have to season. I'm just adding my favorite, one of my favorite tomato pastes, tomato sauces, I should say, tomato pop sauces. And I'm adding just about a half a bottle of that. And that really is what gives it this flavor. Rather, the King Arthur flour recipe suggests making your own sauce, which if you have the extra time, I think that's a good idea. But in my case, I'm doing this just on the weekend, even though it's a rainy day. I'm just trying to make this as time efficient as possible. So I'm adding those 3 ingredients and stirring them up. And you may want to add more of the tomato sauce for flavor, or you might want to do some variation on this, but it's really what makes it to your taste. The key is the diced tomatoes, and the diced tomatoes give it this chunky sauce, and that's very important in these deep dish pizzas, is have that chunky sauce. Not only does it give it body, so it doesn't just go everywhere, you can actually taste the tomatoes, and they're really great along when they're combined along with the seasonings of the sauce and the tomato paste, which gives it a little bit more body, a little bit more firmness. So yeah. So first off, now I'm going to go ahead and preheat the oven to 425 here, and I'm going to start grating the mozzarella. Now, of course, you can easily just get those bags of shredded, pre-grated mozzarella, and that's probably the cheapest, it's definitely the easiest thing to do. And I do that sometimes too, definitely. But it's kind of nice to have the your own grated mozzarella too. So basically, we were getting all the toppings, all the other ingredients ready for this. We've got the sauce, the sausage, and now we're getting the grated cheese. This pizza has a minimal amount of extra toppings. Of course, you can put tomatoes and mushrooms and different veggies and all sorts of things on there. I've sometimes made a meat pizza that's a combination of sausage and pepperoni, and that works just fine. So you can play with this recipe, of course, but this one has a pretty minimal amount of toppings. Okay, so now the dough is ready. We've got our pan here, and we go ahead and just poke a whole bunch of little dimples, so to speak, into this dough. That makes it more workable. And we just start to kind of knead the edges. Just go around slowly around the edge and let it stretch. Kind of press it. We're pressing the edges. We're getting it so that it can stretch and fit the pan. Do that little thing they do in the pizza parlors. And basically we're getting it ready there. And we put it in the pan, and then we kind of do a little bit more maneuvering of the dough around the edge. And this isn't, unlike say a New York style pizza, the usual standard pizza, this dough, you're trying to make the dough, especially along the vertical edges, as thin as possible. And so you're pressing it in there and trying to make it as thin as possible. Some areas in the middle I add from a thicker area, and where some of the areas are too thin, kind of fill that out some, thicken it up rather. So there's just a few areas that were very thin there. That should be sufficient there. So yeah, once again, I'm just trying to press in the corners here, get it thinned out. And once we have that all ready, we're going to go ahead and set it, just leave it and let it rise again just for about 15 minutes. Okay, I've let that rise for about 10 minutes. Now I'm going to go ahead and set it in the preheated oven for 10 minutes. 10 minutes to get it just slightly puffy and a relatively firm surface on it. Okay, so our 10 minutes is about up. I'm going to grab this pizza crust here so it kind of fluffs up in the middle. Push that down. So it's been sitting there in the oven for 10 minutes. And we're going to basically add all the toppings, or the fillings in the toppings. And we do this basically the inverse, the reverse of a standard pizza. We add the cheese first and basically line the crust with cheese. Line it with that grated mozzarella. Then we add the sausage, which, as I said, is kind of like the filling of these deep dish pizzas. We add that sausage. Kind of spread it out evenly. Then we add the sauce that we made. And try to pour that as evenly as possible. Spread that around. Next, we're going to put some pesto on there. And I like to get some pesto that's sort of runny, and I just sort of dribble it around in a circle, concentric circles. And of course you can add as much or as little as you want. I like pesto, so I add a fair amount. You know, whatever fits the top of the pizza, I say. And then, last of all, we take a cup of pre-grated Parmesan cheese and shake that over the top. And that's it. Then we'll go ahead and put it back in the oven for and then we're going to let it sit for 10 to 15 minutes. Let it cool on the rack for 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, so I've let this sit here for 10 to 15 minutes. And I take a spatula, since these pans are coated, anti-stick coating, you want to use a plastic spatula. But use a plastic spatula and go around and try and, just in case it has stuck any place, try to get it unstuck. Usually with all the oil that you've put in the pan, it usually is fairly easy to do that. So get that all ready. And then, it may seem kind of difficult, but it's fairly easy to get this out of the pan, usually. Give it a little help here. There we go. So, So then you let it sit there, and it's sitting cool a little bit. You can go ahead and do the cutting right away. So we'll go ahead and do that. I use one of these pizza cutters. So you just go ahead and cut that up. Using one of these commercial cutters. You can get these pretty much at any good culinary supply place. And there you have it. All right, well there it is, and good luck to you on making your own Chicago deep dish style pizza, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.